Hi, I'm Julia Mitic, and I'm leading the communications work of the Cities and Mobility program at WBCSD. I have invited Thomas Delvoison, Mobility Director at WBCSD, to discuss sustainable transport and how his program, Transforming Urban Mobility, is helping businesses move towards their climate targets. Thank you for joining me, Thomas.
Thank you.
So, Thomas, of course, transport is a driver of climate change, an important cause of air pollution and road fatalities in cities. In fact, it is the fastest growing source of global emissions, and it has been estimated that passenger transport will almost triple by 2050, from 44 trillion to 122 trillion passenger kilometers. And mobility of goods is also set to increase threefold globally. At the same time, we do see a lot of investments from both public and private stakeholders in sustainable mobility. And for example, in many cities, today we see a clear shift happening towards active modes such as biking and walking. And globally, there is clearly an acceleration of electric vehicle sales. And some even predict that a large part of the global workforce will continue to work remotely even after the pandemic. And so it seems that the COVID-19 pandemic, or maybe rather the response from city and national governments, has accelerated this transition to sustainable mobility. So my first question to you, Thomas, is where will all of this take us? Are the sustainability trends in mobility that we see today and the pace of change sufficient to reach global climate targets?
Well, you're right to say that the local and the global signals that we see are general signals of acceleration towards sustainable mobility. And that is very encouraging. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that without a coordinated systemic set of actions in the next decade, we will not be on track with the climate compatible scenario by the key time milestones of 2030. Transformations for a sustainable mobility requires a set of coordinated action, as I just said, at global level and at local level between public, private sector, civil society, and all the stakeholders. The actions must focus on passenger and good mobility. It's about providing low carbon vehicles and fuels and a real step change in efficiency when using these vehicles. It's about continuing to develop the key required infrastructure for transport to maintain access and increase access to the widest possible population, but also to use the current and existing infrastructure far more efficiently. It's about diversifying mobility solutions and shift mobility habits, especially in the urban environment, without impacting safety and inclusivity. It's about finding ways to go beyond decarbonization of the use phase, or with the time that the vehicles are used, to move beyond that phase and go to and address the sourcing and the production phase of vehicles. Finally, it's also looking at the frontier of technology and understand where it can really benefit mobility to make it more sustainable, notably with the autonomous technology. But there is a lot to do. And as I said, without a systemic perspective and a systemic action, we will not get there.
Thank you, Thomas, for this interesting overview. So if we look more specifically at the work of WBCSD and your program in particular, how are you addressing these challenges?
Well, in our transportation and mobility pathway in WBCSD Vision 2050 Time to Transform report, we highlight how business can take a leading role in this transition towards safe, accessible, clean, and efficient transportation of people and goods. Our program, Transforming Urban Mobility, tackles this transition through three intersecting project areas. At first, it's about decarbonization. It's also about digitalization and behavior change. Our mobility decarbonization, to start with, is guiding companies towards electric vehicle adoption and is creating frameworks for the faster and much required deployment of charging infrastructure to support the clean energy transition and make sure that the fleets that are electrified will be operationally optimized. It's also important that electric vehicles are adopted because they do improve air quality in cities and they mitigate climate change. But vehicle manufacturers can't really do that alone. That's why our project in decarbonization brings energy, real estate, utility providers, and all the sectors together to collaborate and deliver environmental, economic, and social value through decarbonization of mobility at scale. I've talked about digitalization, and it's the title of our second project, Digitalization and Data Sharing. This project gathers mobility stakeholders to facilitate the adoption of data-driven sustainable solutions in the urban mobility systems. We develop policy guidance, governance models for data sharing in mobility that can reduce transport emissions through efficiency, reduce road congestion, while enhancing safety and accessibility, all of that while protecting privacy and using data ethically to guarantee trust between the sectors who generate and share data. Finally, our commuting behavior change project focuses on making urban commuting environmentally and financially and socially sustainable. We provide companies with the tools for designing and implementing corporate mobility policies that support cleaner and healthier mobility choices amongst employees and help them catalyze action in cities with corporate mobility pacts. More generally, WBCSD is committed to accelerating the transition to a sustainable world by making our member companies more successful and sustainable. And the mobility program is exactly this. We design and advocate for solutions that help companies advance their own sustainability transition, but at the same time that make them play a leading role in delivering sustainable urban mobility in cities around the world.
Thank you very much, Thomas. So could you share some more details about the impact that your program seeks to have? What are the tipping points and why should businesses join you?
Well, very simply, mobility is a driving force for economic activity, enabling access to jobs, it enables commerce, it enables also social aspects of the society like education and healthcare. An optimized movement of people and goods could represent a global market worth of an estimated $1.3 trillion by 2025. Replacing conventional cars with electric cars can lower air and noise pollution in cities and help to curb climate change by moving the transport sector towards net zero. Additionally, battery EVs or electric vehicles can lower the operating cost of a company fleet by reducing the requirement on energy by 2 to 3 times. Similarly, digitalization and data sharing are the key enablers of sustainable mobility and can provide new value streams for the private sector. For example, the value of vehicle-generated data alone could create a total revenue pool of $450 to $700,000 billion by 2030. Data sharing in mobility can also contribute to economic development through job creation, strengthening the local innovation, improve the planning of policymakers and infrastructure, and of course, fuel the research capabilities and the related innovation. When it comes to our third focus area, commuting behavior change, this is really something that concerns all businesses. All companies that want to tackle their Scope 3 emission must make their employees' commuting and business travel more sustainable. Apart from lowering emissions, which is the obvious direct consequence, it's about encouraging sustainable commuting amongst employees, and that can also help companies to reduce their costs, for example, by reducing the need for parking spaces, but also help the companies to become more attractive employers, especially to the new generation. A study in the US is showing that that 1 in 4 employees actually left their job because of the commute, and this is a pattern that we also find in Europe. Supporting sustainability and a healthy lifestyle among staff improves the public image of companies, and this can help to attract and retain talents in the future. Simply said, sustainability is increasingly key for securing business continuity. The policy direction is clear, with trends such as the zero emission zones in cities, carbon pricing, and electric vehicle incentive. And it's just a matter of time before embracing a sustainability agenda will be the only way for companies to keep their license to operate.
Thank you very much, Thomas. So there is already a clear business case for acting on sustainable mobility. And we do see more and more companies making bold climate commitments. And with all that business action, will that be enough?
Well, as we said, business cannot make that transformation happen on its own. It must also support, influence, and collaborate with the other essential enablers of transformation at system level. This is people like the policymakers, the finance sectors, the civil society. To change urban mobility, companies must also work with cities, and this is something we do in our program. WBCSD mobility program area work is built upon a long legacy of collaboration between businesses and cities. Our work provides key methodologies and tools to help cities and policymakers address urban mobility issues in cities around the world and make urban life more sustainable. Our tools are available to all, and we offer guidance for their deployment as part of our mobility projects and our collaboration with cities in public-private partnerships. A dialogue with the local public authorities can help to align ambition and to coordinate and accelerate changes in urban mobility.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much for guiding us through the impressive work of your program and for highlighting the business case for sustainability and the need for cross-sector collaboration. I would also like to thank our listeners for tuning into this discussion. If you are interested in our work, don't hesitate to get in touch. And there is also more information available on our website, wbcsd.org. We look forward to collaborating with you in the future.